Thank you very much. I would like to ask one question related to this around the question for the nuclear thoughts. And that is, we are being more for the civilian of 1 year. So a lot of the farming in Scotland is that a lot of farming, not so much new, but literally. So what we have experienced in the field of the estimation in the north and it's a video study. Yes, or it. Okay, I'm always sweating for good. Yes, okay. Yes, I get it. Yeah, that's right. And I'm a big guy. Yeah. So we have pressed water productivity as far as we believe we can over the last 10 years using laboratory. So the question is, what is the next technology? For the 90% of farmers in Africa with our small rotors, it's not going to be sellability. The Zimbabwean government is always trying to force some schemes to go out of center because you're a Canadian. And then the farmer from there doesn't listen to and that's not going to work. So what is the technology that are cost effectively going to allow these small scale farmers to be more productive, not just in yield, but also be able to measure in gross market. But not in yield come in the rubbish, yield is rubbish tip. If you don't have markets, you can't turn that yield into profit. Then it's all basically a yield of what requires a market for. But my question right now was actually about the technology. So how do we develop, how do we get scientists' interest in develop these technologies that are not a lot of money, but people significantly use that the life of the more fish farmers reduce acres like them in something that I'm thinking.
Thank you, Henning. So my suggestion that in order to save time and to have more questions, that we don't go for the four of you to answer that question. One volunteer, one will be all the first one that will raise their hand.
Okay, I'd like to talk about the water productivity because
easier for you to put it.
Yeah, I'm not mobile now. Huh? So I think his question is very right, really, because when I try to define water productivity, it is water, how much you produce for markets, really. That is important. So water productivity for sale or supply. I think that is key because if farmer increases productivity, more produce comes, prices fall, there's a glut in the market, and he even does not have really transport to take to the market because the cost of this is my experience. So I think there is a lot of work needs to be done all along the supply chain, where I think the produce we are getting more and more should be marketed at a profit. And the profit, the way I see it, the farmer and the end consumer are at the loss. The chain in between takes all the profit. So somehow we have to rationalize that. That's my response.
Yes, the market is absolutely right, and that's fine. So I'm thinking about the technology, but how are we going to get engineers excited about producing really, developing really simple things that are not meant and will reflect a lot of money, but things that will really impact water use productivity among smaller farms.
Anyone there wants to
couldn't your Int'l be one of his answers?
What?
Couldn't the things on the green side of your
exactly.
be one of his answers?
Yeah, I think this is very, but I think I would like to go a little further, at least because technology is, he's referring his technology is already gone at a high level. What is needed that the technology for small farmers all along the supply chain is very outdated. I think if you can really know, like our work in Pakistan, we have revealed that simple technology, if you can increase the value of the produce by urban, taking the air out and preserving it for a longer time, I think it will add so much value, or some little things they can. I'm not talking about the. So I think still my point holds that if already technology has reached its limits, there's a lot more to be done of technology improvement all along the supply chain.
Captain Dominic from the next question. Here's the reminder of everybody that nothing has become the party last of your voice.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that working?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello, yeah. I just wanted to emphasize and then ask a question to our panelists, the importance of agroforestry, because agroforestry, we all know the examples where there's been huge problems due to deforestation, for example, in Madagascar. Now we have a big drought in the Amazon. So I wanted to ask one of you or two of you if there are systems here in Africa to have mixed farming with forestry, especially in zones. And our former speaker mentioned that it's very important to have it for watershed, a management for watershed. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, Phil. You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. You're absolutely correct. We have got agroforestry programs, especially targeting local communities. We are using those the agroforestry initiative as part of job creation program. And we have been doing this with our key partners, looking at working for water program, working for forestry. And on the other hand, we've got guys who are driving the commercial agroforestry initiatives. These are guys like the South African agroforestry industry. And these are the ones who are contributing certain percentage towards the programs that are being run in different rural areas as part of a job creation scheme. So to answer your question, yes, we've got various programs targeting various communities across the country. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I like your presentation very much, but an issue I want to draw attention to is the fact that both the presentations of Caribou and Mahmoud, you actually discussed this climate smart agriculture practices. And what I missed is a component, of course, Mahmoud did talk a bit about it, is a component of the livestock sector, because you rightly pointed out that agriculture contributes about 10% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, and a huge proportion of that comes from the livestock sector. But when you talk about these practices or the technologies needed, you just don't talk about the livestock sector. I mean, it's not only your problem, but this is a problem I've noticed when I go to conferences or when I have my students present and they talk about climate smart agriculture practices, and they certainly about the livestock sector. We can say huge issue that also needs to be addressed. I can understand that it doesn't see on water, and I'm saying we talk about crops, but then you shouldn't forget about the livestock. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, you're great. You're absolutely correct. It's one thing that we are also battling with. If you look at 90% of our research and development initiative, we are focusing more on forestry, on crop production and neglecting the livestock component. Like you have mentioned, I mean, most of the GHG or greenhouse gas emissions coming from the livestock. I think for the past 2 years, we have been trying to change that perception. We even have a project looking at the water footprint of livestock because of the demand from the livestock industry. It's the same principle. Like, I mean, if you are talking about climate change issues, the emphasis is more on the mitigation just because of the market incentives compared to climate change adaptation. Because when they look at adaptation, they think these are local issues that government needs to put more resources and so on. But the situation is changing because of the intensity and the frequency of floods and drought and disease outbreaks that we are facing across the globe, not only in South Africa or in the SADC region. Thank you.
I think I take your point very well, but I think in the context of this pilot which I presented, I think we had an area where livestock was not dominant, and these rice and wheat were the main thing. But what we are, I mean, if you define the regenerative agriculture, of course, the things I have mentioned, the practices, they are included, but they put more emphasis on livestock and agroforestry. So our next is that we are now trying hard to get money for our blueprint is already there, but we have to do it for livestock. So our next project is specifically on livestock, doing two things: how we can change the fodder cropping pattern, so at least they eat a better quality fodder. So this gas is not emitted that much. Then I think we are also promoting biogas. We have already sketched community-based biogas plants where I think it will be self-sustaining. Yeah, this is our next frontier, livestock and then agroforestry. Agroforestry in Pakistan is only like 2%, but still we want to promote it as a source of income, providing shade to the and diversifying the cropping pattern. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. No. Maybe now? Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for your very good presentations that lead us to reflect and think about some of the issues that you were presenting. More than a question, I have two reflections that came up with your presentations, which probably will be more for discussion overall and over time more than a specific question. The first one has to do with maybe the need to begin to include outside agriculture issues. In all of your presentations, technology is essential for sustainability, for adaptation. But in the short term, I think we have to also look at rural-urban migration. Agriculture today is aging, and given the importance of age, of education, we have to look at short-term alternatives and opportunities for youth to stay in the rural sector and further agriculture over time. The second reflection has to do with water reuse. The consideration is if you're discharging from treatment plants into the basin, continental discharge, I think we have to reflect that that water is already reused. And the issue is whether planned reuse over unplanned reuse generates social benefits and how it can increase sustainability of agriculture. Thank you.
Okay.
With regards to rural-urban migration, you're absolutely correct. If you look at what is happening in various provinces, especially the metro ones, like Gauteng, Cape Town here, and so on. Majority of our people are from rural areas. And you ask yourself, did we put the correct infrastructure that's going to be able to absorb pressure based on the movement from rural to urban areas? We know that issues related to energy, issues related to water services, and so on, it's a big thing, even housing issues. That's why there's always backlog, because the government will think that they are going to put maybe 500,000 or 1 million houses. 3 months down the line, you've got 500,000 coming from various provinces to Gauteng province. So it affects the spatial planning, and it also affects issues related to food access, water availability, and so on. And sometimes it creates unnecessary tension. These are some of the issues that policymakers are trying to address that. But we've got a long way to go until such time wherein national governments start to decentralize some of the services to rural areas and also create job opportunities in order to minimize movement of people from rural to urban areas. Thank you.
Yeah. I have a little bit of different take on this one, the rural-urban thing, really. I think over time, if I look at I'm now bringing a bit of economics now in here. I think the incentive structure facing the farm sector is really, really penalized, really. I mean, I have a number of people who, one way or the other work for me, or they just really, I said, why you are here? They said, we can't make enough money in the agriculture sector. So they are doing ordinary job like driving and all that. And they said, we can do much more. Now, the incentive structure, what I mean is that the farmers' costs of production has gone up, whereas the output prices are linked to the international prices, which are very unstable. And I think until very recently, the terms of trade for agriculture was quite against it, really. So I think as long as we don't really provide the incentive for people to stay in the farming, making farming profitable, it will not really, they will move, really. And that's what is happening. So I could already see that for the first time last 2 years, I don't know, because of the wheat and rice international prices have been skyrocketing. All of a sudden, some of these are thinking of going back and making more money. I think it's a bigger picture. I'm trying to bring it in.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to just comment on the rural-urban migration, particularly from getting young people to stay. I'd say I think my colleagues have really echoed it in terms of farming is expensive. It seems like a very inaccessible industry on its own for young people who are actually starting from absolutely nothing. And market access for young people is an even bigger barrier. So it's bigger than just, yes, I can get the produce done, but getting into the market and actually making sure that your produce is profitable, that's an even bigger barrier because of age. In the context of young women, age and gender is another big factor. But I think also a mind shift. And I think the example on technology, like drone technology and the newer modern technology, I think young people are interested in those kinds of things. And I think bringing those forward will probably make the market itself attractive. But the urgent thing for us is making money, getting the revenue, and agriculture just seems like, oh my gosh, I need so much resources to even get into this sector. I then want to speak on the livestock industry, and I think perhaps from a woman in agriculture perspective, particularly on, I think often when we speak on, the livestock climate change contribution aspect in the context of a woman who's from a rural community, priorities are food security and economic empowerment. And I think that perhaps then in the context of the technology in itself, yes, we may need to consider that kind of thing, but it would take so much for us to ask, for example, women in rural communities to stop livestock farming, or to at least be to consider the contribution if at the end of the day food security is a priority, economic advancement is a priority, and I guess maybe the scientists will need to consider what that looks like. But I think in the context of climate change, there's almost like a big requirement for Africa to stop certain things, whereas it's contributing to a lot more from a developed perspective.
Thank you. Yes, maybe thank you for your question related to the maybe existence of tank or reservoir in the output. It is the case in, for example, in the Hinaya perimeter. I want just to say, but especially for this perimeter, it was not a choice to have like a project on water use. It was an obligation because there was no water in this period. Yes, the reason that there was the National Office of Sanitation was responsible of the monitoring of the wastewater treatment plant, and then just at the output of the wastewater, the National Office of Irrigation and Drainage, like built 2 tanks with a very important capacity, maybe. To be honest, maybe more than 3,000 cubic meter for both or for one. Yes, I have just to check the information. Yeah, and from these 2 tanks, there is like a system, a network for feeding all the perimeter with the surface of 912 hectare. Yes, it was like it was. I specify that it was not a choice, it was an obligation. Yes, thank you.
Thanks. So my question, it's actually not a question, it's a reflection from, can you hear me okay? Yeah. It's a reflection from Ariel's presentation and also Karapo's presentation. So, I'd like to ask us in the room, just a question, who are we doing the research for? One answer. Everyone knows the answer. Who are we doing the research for? Why are we implementing policies and projects? Come on, someone knows the answer. For who? For who? For people, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we all know, we are serving the people at the end of the day. And so my point is that if we are working and serving the people, then they need to be at the heart of the things that we do. And that means that if we are going to do research, it's important for us to acknowledge that these people are not the same, right? People are different. We have different needs. I am a woman, but I come from Kenya, I have different needs from her who is from South Africa, right? And so it's important for us, even as we develop and to generate data, to just ensure that that information is disaggregated by gender, because then that ensures that even as we develop projects, they are more efficient. We have limited resources. We all want to make a difference. And so that means that if you're not putting the people at the heart of everything, then we are missing the point. And maybe just a contribution to Ariel's model to say that to enrich that model, I would recommend that people forms the heart of that model, the ETIEA approach that you suggested. If you can have people at the heart of it, and not just people, but disaggregated by gender, I think it's going to add more value to that, because then you know what kind of awareness you're going to promote, what kind of education you're going to promote. So just a reflection for all of us in the room, inspired by him, and maybe Karabo, if you'd want to add to just cement the aspect of gender disaggregated data, that would be good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it out? Okay. Outside the field, I'm not an economist, not an irrigation expert, agricultural expert. I know it.
Yeah. Oh.
Are you sure it works? Okay. I keep telling everybody to do what I'm not doing myself. Okay. Excuse me if I'm wrong. With the advances
in irrigation. Since there was quite a bit of talk with some of these case experiments that, case studies that were given. But there have been a lot of advances made. I mean, at least I'm familiar with some of that in the state of California, and Glendale is responsible for that. Advances in terms of irrigation efficiency have reached an incredible stage that every plant can be applied the same amount of water and nutrients that is required, and not more, nor less. So why is it with all the AIDS agencies around the world? I mean, let's say that the rich countries owe it to the not so rich countries to provide the resources, the know-how, etc. Why are we still talking about little pilot studies where these have already been proven that they work? Why aren't they investing to try to do that? I think our whole discussions may not be in the right direction. The question is, where do you find both banks, etc., that can really provide the education in order to make the differences? So it's only a comment. I don't want answers, but I want it to be thought about. Okay, it's really an important thing. You don't want to essentially reinvent the wheel every few times in different regions of the world. They're already there. The question is, why aren't they being done?
There has to come.
Okay.
That last one before okay, I'll speak very quickly. I've really been encouraged by how social issues and gender are coming out very strongly, but the discussion so far does not really seem to take cognizance of the environmental impacts. Freshwater biodiversity is the most heavily impacted of any kind of biodiversity, and it's rapidly declining. In South Africa, we've got an environmental reserve in terms of policy mechanisms to protect that biodiversity, and the recognition of the need that we need to ensure that freshwater systems remain functional. We need to remember that water in rivers that flows down to estuaries and feeds fisheries there is not wasted water. And we're talking about expanding land under agriculture as if it was a limitless resource, but it's not. And so we need to also be efficient in water use, but also in land use in order to reduce our impacts. So just to leave you with that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. I'm gonna start off with what Grace had mentioned. Definitely, the disaggregated data is so important because a lot of people are missed out in any of the interventions that are done, and particularly those who are most vulnerable and most affected. So intersectional interventions are always needed. And I just want to give an example that I'm speaking about during the break of just agriculture on its own, how it affects married women versus unmarried women, different experiences. So it's so important to ensure that we really do look at who is behind a lot of the technologies that we actually bring forward and how the social, cultural, and different circumstances actually affect their ability to access and engage with whatever it is that we bring forward. And another thing in terms of what Prof. Sarush mentioned around the piloting and all of that, I just wanted to come in there and say that while we're trying to obviously get the resources to push, please make sure that the budgeting is gender sensitive. That's very important because while we then allocate funds, a lot of women are missed out when we then move beyond piloting.
Well, to your or you can start.
Okay.
Well, yes, please.
No, I think, your question is very valid. Sorry again. Okay. Yeah, the technology, I can bring very quickly the case of Pakistan. Now this high irrigation efficiency, drip irrigation is all over the world. But I think World Bank for last 5-7 years are supporting it to promote it, but it has failed. Ask me why, because, these, for small farmers, the average small farmer is 2 to 5 acres there. So for them to put even the subsidized cost up front It's very difficult, really. But the story does not end here. Whoever really got the loan and subsidy from World Bank, they really used it for 2-3 years. They made use of the subsidy, and then it takes a lot of hard work because maintenance and these kind of things. It's a different ball game. So they just they came back to the old system. But to me, why technology takeoff is so good, where I have worked for 24 years for RIP. First of all, the agriculture or the sector has to be profitable. It was not. Second, the value of water, unless there is no value of water, why I have the incentive? The canal water is coming free. As I said to some of them, a burger is more expensive than really what I pay for an annual for 1 acre of land. Why I should invest in this high technology? So I think these are some of the things.
We appreciate that. At the same time, it's not agree that. I fully. All right, here we go. I fully appreciate that fact. But at the same time, I think one has to go through the process of elimination and see where the bottlenecks are. Technology is there. If a small farmer, because that's a distributed system, the question is, whose responsibility is it? Is it those governments who spent tons of money on farms and, doing all kinds of other things as far as spending it on these kinds of important things, facing all the challenges we have with water issues, with water quality issues, etc. I live in Orange County, California. Okay, every day, 200 million gallons of wastewater are treated to a quality better than the drinking water. And in fact, for recharging it to the ground water, they have to add a little salt so that it doesn't corrode the pipes. Sure. This is really what's happening. And they're there. The question is, how do you make that technology accessible to others? Unfortunately, in the world that we live today, there are sanctions against certain countries and more sanctions against those. None of those technologies become available to people. So I think we're not dealing with the immediate issues that need to be reformed in order to enable people to apply these technologies. Okay, with that, I thank you for the wonderful session in the morning, speakers, and earlier for the work.